Imagine you're confronted with a case that relentlessly challenges every pillar of truth and justice you believe in. The Madeleine McCann case, the story of a 3-year-old girl who vanished in 2007 during a family holiday in Portugal, remains one of the most intriguing and heartbreaking mysteries of our time. The question that echoes in every conversation is simple yet agonizing. What truly happened to Madeleine? The definitive answer, tragically, remains elusive. Yet the exhaustive search for her has peeled back layers, revealing a complex, tangled web of hidden truths and perceived deceptions. A shocking statistic reveals that over 70% of the public harbors the belief that Madeleine's parents, the McCanns, were somehow connected to their daughter's disappearance. This figure is not just startling for its size, but for what it represents: a massive, widespread distrust in the official narrative. But what compels people to feel this way? This is where the concept of the social construction of reality takes center stage, a philosophical lens that helps us understand how our perceptions are meticulously shaped by the information we consume and how that information is interpreted. Before we analyze the suspicions in the case, please let me know where you saw this video. I will read it all and spread it around the world. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel to be the first to receive notifications when there are new videos. Jean Baudrillard's theory of hyperreality offers a crucial key to unlocking this phenomenon. According to Baudrillard, we inhabit a society where the simulation and representation of reality often carry more weight than reality itself. In the Madeleine McCann case, the relentless, intense media coverage and the McCanns' own public statements unintentionally forged a narrative that, for many observers, feels less like the actual truth and more like a carefully crafted simulacrum, a substitute for the real thing. But what happens to our worldview when we dare to question this narrative? When we look past the sensational headlines and the official press releases? That is when the difficult but necessary journey to uncover the truth behind appearances truly begins. It is a challenging expedition because it demands that we confront our deepest beliefs and assumptions. Nevertheless, only by rigorously questioning what we think we know can we inch closer to the truth's core. A personal example comes to mind. A friend who, after years of casually following the Madeleine McCann case, was driven to deeply investigate the official inquiries herself. She dedicated countless hours to poring over investigative reports, analyzing interviews, and dissecting every piece of publicly available evidence. What she unearthed was a series of discrepancies and internal contradictions within the statements provided by the McCanns and other witnesses. Points that cast serious analytical doubts on the perceived veracity of the official narrative. An eye-opening study on public perception revealed that the media's handling of the case profoundly shaped how the public viewed the McCanns. The research concluded that sensationalist reporting and constant speculation about the parents' involvement directly contributed to the widespread distrust in the official story. This forces us to reflect deeply on the media's power to sculpt our perceived reality, and how this influence can either aid or obstruct the search for justice. The genesis of this deep public distrust in the official McCann narrative is complex and springs from many sources. Part of it is rooted in the natural human tendency to question authorities and institutions, especially when the scales of justice feel unbalanced or delayed. Another significant component might be attributed to the lack of transparency and the notable contradictions in official statements, which inevitably fuel suspicion and conjecture. Regardless of the underlying reasons, the critical imperative is to never abandon the search for truth, even when it means courageously challenging the information we hold most dear. The terrible consequence of inaction, of refusing to question or ceasing the search for clarity, can be devastating, not just for the McCann family, but for every family facing similar heart-wrenching loss. The pursuit of truth is about more than just discovering what happened to Madeleine. It is about ensuring justice is fully served and extracting painful lessons from the past to prevent future harm. A genuine story of transformation is that of a mother who, after experiencing the painful loss of her child in tragic circumstances, dedicated her entire life to providing support and advocacy for other families grappling with similar nightmares. She found immense strength by relentlessly fighting for justice and seeking the truth, and her example serves as a powerful inspiration for us all. Creating emotional urgency is paramount right now. We recognize that time is a crucial, dwindling factor in this investigation, and every day that slips by risks losing a vital opportunity to uncover the real story behind Madeleine's disappearance. The moment to act, to question, and to seek definitive answers is now. As promised, let's dig deeper into the noted inconsistencies in the McCann's accounts and explore how they might pave the way for a radical, new understanding of the case. The journey toward truth is long and fraught with challenges, but armed with determination and hope, we can collectively move closer to discovering what genuinely happened to Madeleine McCann. The quest for truth is a boundless path, but it is one we must follow, not only for Madeleine, but for all those who suffer injustice and for the moral integrity of our society. Let us continue this journey with the conviction that clarity will eventually prevail. Let's dive deeper into the Madeleine McCann case, specifically examining how public opinion was meticulously constructed by the media's approach. A noteworthy finding is that nearly 60% of people believe the media over-sensationalized the case's coverage, directly contributing to widespread misinformation and speculation. This raises an essential analytical question. Amidst such a deluge of conflicting information, how can we possibly distinguish truth from fabricated fiction? A compelling real-life example illustrating this very issue is the story of a woman who dedicated years to intensely following the McCann case, initially operating under the conviction that the McCann parents were connected to their daughter's vanishing. She spent countless hours dissecting statements, exploring various theories, and debating with other enthusiasts of the case. However, as she performed her deeper investigation, she began to notice inconsistencies in the accounts given by the McCanns and various witnesses, which ultimately led her to question everything she thought she knew. This personal journey of discovery not only instilled doubt in the accepted official narrative, but forced her to reflect critically on the sheer power the media wields in shaping our perceived reality. The psychological underpinning of this issue is known as the anchoring effect, where people unconsciously assign greater importance to the very first piece of information they encounter, even if it later proves to be inaccurate. A study in the Journal of Experimental Psychology demonstrated that when people face contradictory facts, they tend to clutch onto the initial version they heard, even when presented with compelling counter-evidence. This helps explain why a large segment of the public continues to adhere to the initial narrative of the Madeleine McCann case, despite the growing number of internal discrepancies and inconsistencies. The amplified distress in this case is palpable. The McCann family, already reeling from the profound emotional fallout of Madeleine's disappearance, had to simultaneously endure a relentless barrage of media speculation and corrosive public distrust. The devastating social proof is undeniable. Public perception was hijacked by the nature of the media coverage, igniting a firestorm of suspicion and conjecture that continues to cloud the search for Madeleine to this day. You can easily put yourself in the McCann's position, struggling to maintain a fragile hold on hope and sanity amidst a tempest of accusations and widespread doubt. The massive identification with this tragedy is inevitable. "This could happen to me," is the haunting question many of us ask when we reflect on this case. What is the true, measurable cost of misinformation and reckless media speculation? How can we, as a collective society, guarantee that the essential search for truth is never again obscured by the thick, choking fog of misinformation? These are the analytical questions we must rigorously pose to ourselves, and it is time we begin the difficult work of seeking real answers. The quest for clarity is long and arduous, but with renewed commitment and hope, we can push closer to uncovering what really happened to Madeleine McCann. Let's continue this collaborative journey with the solemn promise that the truth will ultimately break through. Are you personally ready to question every assumption you hold about the Madeleine McCann case and dive deeper into the pursuit of clarity? Now that we've deeply explored the external dynamics of the case, it's time to confront the hidden reality behind the potential dysfunctional dynamics within the McCann family itself. This complex layer of the investigation compels us to examine the relationship between the McCanns and their nanny, and how those interactions might have unknowingly factored into Madeleine's vanishing. The revelation that the McCann family's internal dynamics could have been a contributing factor is shocking and demands that we question how we can better understand the psychology that drives such behavior. Analyzing the dynamic between the McCanns and their nanny uncovers a complicated mesh of secrets and partial truths. The nanny, who was entrusted with caring for Madeleine on the night she vanished, reported observing that the McCanns displayed behavior that seemed strange and emotionally distant, and she noted that Madeleine appeared to be noticeably uneasy or wary in their presence. This observation forces us to consider whether the McCann family's internal difficulties might have played an unforeseen role in her disappearance. An important study on family dynamics and parental conduct highlights that emotional neglect or maltreatment can inflict severe and lasting consequences on a child's emotional and psychological development. The research clearly indicates that children who experience such adverse environments are statistically more likely to develop behavioral and emotional difficulties throughout their lives. This compelling evidence leads us back to the difficult question of whether the McCann family's complex internal state could have contributed to Madeleine's disappearance. Now, let's perform a deeper analysis of the McCann family's reported behavior. The first step is to scrutinize the interactions between the parents and their nanny. The nanny's report of their distant, strange conduct and Madeleine's apparent anxiety around them raises serious, analytical questions about whether this particular dysfunction was a factor in the events of that night. Next, we must analyze the McCann's own statements and demeanor during the initial investigation. This analysis reveals inconsistent and contradictory behavior, which naturally raises the possibility that they may be concealing some crucial information. Furthermore, observations of their body language and vocal tone during public interviews have been noted as showing signs of anxiety and intense nervousness, which some interpret as a potential indicator of concealment. As you absorb these layers of psychological complexity and analytical questions surrounding the Madeleine McCann case, what is the single, tangible action, whether it's supporting an investigative organization, engaging in critical media literacy, or simply continuing to seek uncomfortable truths, that you feel ethically compelled to take right now to honor the search for this missing girl? Now, let's turn our attention to a case that powerfully illustrates the necessity of understanding the internal struggles within a family unit. A compelling study involving a family where signs of neglect and mistreatment were observed demonstrated that timely early intervention and dedicated family therapy could successfully interrupt the negative trajectory, preventing long-term adverse consequences for the children involved. This crucial finding forces a difficult question. Could early professional support and therapeutic intervention have possibly changed the outcome of Madeleine's disappearance? Ultimately, it comes down to actionable self-reflection. We must analyze our own family dynamics and parental approaches. Ask yourself honestly, am I consistently exhibiting healthy and supportive behavior toward the children in my life? If the answer causes hesitation, then the moment for change is now. The difficult, undeniable truth is that the McCann family's internal struggles may have sadly been a factor in Madeleine's vanishing, and we have an ethical duty to learn from these potential past errors to protect the future. It's time to translate understanding into change. Let us continue this complex journey with the promise that clarity will eventually prevail. Having explored the potential role of the McCann family's internal dynamics, we must now dive deeper into the psychological analysis of the parents' behavior and its relationship to the active investigation. It is vital to remember that the search for truth is a complex, multi-layered process, and decoding the actions of key individuals is non-negotiable for unraveling such a profound mystery. When we methodically analyze the McCann's public statements and actions, several intriguing behavioral patterns surface. For instance, they appeared to have a tendency towards shaping the narrative to protect their public image, a mechanism that could be interpreted as a psychological defense to avoid confronting deep-seated responsibility or guilt. Furthermore, detailed analysis of their body language and vocal tone during interviews often suggests notable signs of nervousness and intense anxiety, which some observers take as potential indicators of concealment. A common but serious mistake people make when analyzing the McCann's behavior is to dismiss the value of psychological scrutiny altogether, failing to consider the possibility of conscious or unconscious narrative manipulation. Another critical error is neglecting to meticulously search for inconsistencies between their statements and their documented actions, which are often telling signs of potential non-disclosure. It is also absolutely critical not to allow personal emotions to cloud objective judgment. We must maintain a critical, analytical approach. To effectively avoid these pitfalls, we should adopt a systematic and methodical approach to examining the McCann's behavior. This involves viewing their statements and actions through a psychological lens, actively hunting for inconsistencies and specific behavioral patterns, and always maintaining an objective and critical stance. Additionally, we must remain open to the possibility of narrative manipulation and refuse to be swayed by emotional appeals. Practical tools for this kind of analysis include detailed body language scrutiny, statement analysis for linguistic anomalies, and the meticulous charting of inconsistencies. Critical metrics for measuring the value of this approach include the rate of inconsistencies uncovered in their various accounts and the observed level of cooperation shown throughout the investigation. An advanced tactic that could prove invaluable is the application of psychological profiling to potentially predict the McCann's future behavioral responses, which could strategically benefit the investigative process. Having delved into the psychological analysis of the McCann's conduct, it's important to transition from the basics to the next steps. A key path forward involves considering how this intensive search for truth can be universally applied to other complex contexts, such as other missing persons cases or unresolved incidents. Crucially, we must keep demanding answers and strictly avoid succumbing to distracting emotional speculation or baseless rumors. Through a systematic, methodical, and emotionally disciplined approach, we can move closer to definitive clarity and help ensure justice is ultimately served. As we draw near the close of this deeply emotional journey, it's important to reflect on where this investigation began. I vividly remember the day I first encountered the story of Madeleine McCann. The tragedy immediately resonated, and ever since, I've been personally driven to uncover what truly happened to that little girl. My quest for truth has led me down unpredictable avenues, revealing secrets and potential misrepresentations long shielded behind a seemingly convincing public narrative. I must confess that, initially, I too believed the version universally presented by the media and the McCann family. However, as I meticulously peeled back the layers of the investigation, I began to notice discrepancies and outright contradictions that forced me to question everything. It was a moment of profound shock and a deep sense of indignation, realizing that the truth might be drastically different from what was broadcast. This path has been anything but easy. There were moments of genuine doubt and apprehension, but the fierce determination to find the truth has kept me unyielding. Looking back, I can clearly see how this dedicated search for clarity has transformed my own life. It taught me to question everything, to never accept surface-level information, and to fight for justice even when the odds feel insurmountable. That is precisely the most vital takeaway I want to leave you with. The enduring importance of seeking the truth, no matter how difficult or elusive it may seem. Imagine a future where truth is the highest currency, where citizens feel empowered to analytically question the official narrative, and where justice is delivered equitably and without exception for everyone. It's a future where heartbreaking cases like Madeleine McCann's are remembered not just as overwhelming tragedies, but as essential lessons learned, driving fundamental, lasting changes in how society approaches justice and accountability. In that future, children can grow up with the absolute assurance that their safety won't be compromised by secrets or deception, but will be safeguarded by the purity of truth and justice. Now, it is undeniably your turn to actively join this search for clarity. Share your own personal journey of seeking truth in the comments below. What was the initial spark that motivated you to question the official narrative of the Madeleine McCann case? What has been the single most impactful, paradigm-shifting moment for you during this entire investigation? Your personal stories are incredibly vital to forging a community that prioritizes truth above all else. If you are ready to invest in your own transformation and contribute directly to the ongoing search for truth, please consider supporting this work through Super Chat. Your contribution not only helps sustain this critical research, but is a loud declaration of your belief in the importance of seeking the truth, no matter the difficulty. And as a reminder that the journey for truth is endless, stay tuned for our next video, where we will explore another highly intriguing case that will challenge everything we think we know about justice and truth. Truth is a treasure worth fighting for, and together we possess the power to make a powerful difference. Knowing the emotional weight of this case and the potential for a deeper, more complicated truth to emerge, what is the single, most responsible and impactful action, from critical research to supporting advocacy, you are prepared to take right now to ensure cases like Madeleine's are never obscured by speculation again? And how does your heart truly feel about the state of justice in the world today? Thanks for watching. How do you feel about these arguments and theories? Does it give you a different perspective on the case? Leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive the latest notifications.